Now, with so many FPL managers looking to hit that free hit button in game week 29, I thought I'd ask the AI for its best free hit draft. Now, before we dive into today's video, of course, if you do enjoy any of the content that you see on the channel, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, as our end of season goal is 12.5k subscribers, and we are getting extremely close to hitting that goal, and it'd be absolutely amazing if we could do it before the end of the season. Starting off, before we head into the AI's free hit draft for blank game week 29, I thought we'd take a look at the 11ified data and, of course, the predicted points from Fantasy Football Hub just for this single game week. As always, if you want to go and check out 11ifi or Fantasy Football Hub, there is a link to both of their amazing websites in the description. Starting off first then, as you can see here, we've got the predicted clean sheets and the projected goal numbers heading into blank game week 29. So all the teams that don't have fixtures, of course, have got a little dash next to their fixtures. Starting off first then with clean sheets, as you can see, the 11ifi model really backing Arsenal this week. It will be interesting to see if the bookmakers also kind of feel that consensus around Arsenal heading to, of course, you know, the Chelsea fixture this week. Manchester City in second, so I know a lot of people are looking at the likes of Gvardiol. I think he'd be an absolutely excellent pickup, regardless of what the AI says, whether that's you're on a free hit or, of course, you're looking at transfers this week. A 35% projection for a clean sheet there. A lot of us do own Bournemouth defenders, or if you are looking for a cheap one, I think Kirkez could be a decent shout, 29% for them. And then everybody else, it does start to tail away. However, there are a few anomalies kind of sticking in here. I'd say Manchester United at 32% seems extremely high, to be honest. But I've seen a few people on Twitter potentially suggesting Mazraoui could be a decent player to pick up, considering the positions that he's been getting into. Forest at 33% as well, I think, you know, are probably going to be featuring in this AI draft as well. I think a lot of people are already invested into the Forest events as well with Aina and Sells. I think they should have a pretty decent game week this week. Heading on over to the projected goal numbers, Manchester City are top. And I think when we come to see the predicted points as well, I think it is leaning towards, obviously, if you're on a free hit this week, probably going with Erling Haaland as the captain. This is probably going to be a period where he's going to be at his lowest owned, and it is a week where I think it is an okay fixture. Of course, Brighton have improved defensively over the past few weeks. However, Manchester City probably still should beat them, and the 11ifi models and the betting markets, from what I've seen so far as well, are also suggesting that, and also quite comfortably having Manchester City scoring a couple there. Arsenal are fancied against Chelsea, but I'm not 100% convinced considering the kind of players that they've got out at the moment. Bournemouth are also looking pretty decent, so the likes of Cliver, Evan Nielsen, Semenyo, definitely going to be on people's shopping list and definitely worth some consideration in terms of the free hit. And a team that I don't think I've really spoke about, and when I did my free hit draft earlier in the week, I didn't have any Fulham players in there, but they've got 1.7 projected goal numbers here. It'll be interesting to see whether or not the AI also picks up on this and maybe selects some Fulham players. But I just wanted to highlight that maybe a team that is going a little bit under the radar. Obviously, it's not the most conventional or the best fixture for me personally to target, but the AI really likes it, and maybe if you're on a free hit, there could be potentially some cheeky little differentials to go for within that Fulham side. Let's move on then. Let's take a look at the projected points just for game week 29. As you can see, Erling Haaland is top with 7.1. Like I said in the last section, of course, with Manchester City having the top numbers for projected goals as well, I do think this means that Haaland probably is going to be our best captaincy shout. Of course, when the betting data does come out as well, I think he could be a really good player to, of course, back and obviously go with that. I'm intrigued to see Cole Palmer this high. I know his data hasn't really dropped off, but it does seem like confidence wise and outside of FPL, his game is taking a little bit of a hit at the moment, so I wouldn't have probably had him as high up, considering as well the low numbers for projected goal numbers from the 11ifi market. I think it was 0.89 for Chelsea. So again, I don't know whether or not I'd buy into that one. Bruno Fernandes, definitely so. Of course, we know what Bruno can offer. I included him in my free hit as well, so I'm backing the Fantasy Football Hub model there. Wood as well, I think could be a really decent captain if you're in a pretty good place with rank, purely down to the fact that I think his effective ownership is probably going to be peak 80. Maybe it gets to 100. I don't know. I think we'd have to have a lot of people buy into Wood, but it's a good fixture. The projected goals were definitely there. I think the bookmakers as well will probably back Nottingham Forest in terms of that one. We saw with the last section that Raul might be a potential good option, or at least some Fulham players as well, considering their decent projected numbers. It's interesting that, of course, the data from 11FI and Fantasy Football Hub is actually marrying up in this kind of situation. So maybe it is something that we've all overlooked so far. I haven't really seen too many Fulham players in drafts this week, so I'm finding that very, very interesting indeed. Of course, as well, we've got the plethora of Arsenal players in there: Odegaard, Trossard, Gabriel. I think, you know, the other midfield options could be decent, but I probably would be more kind of focused on somebody like Gabriel. Gvardiol as well, also featuring on that list, and I think he will be, of course, a very, very popular asset come game week 29, of course, whether that's on a free hit or with potential transfers. That was kind of the teasing, the data build up. Let's head into this AI draft for blank game week 29. Wasting no time, let's dive into the AI's free hit draft for blank game week 29. Starting off first then with our goalkeepers and defenders, and it's gone for some interesting players here, I can't lie. Leno for me feels like a little bit of an off one. I don't think he would have been the goalkeeper I probably would have selected for myself, to be honest. Considering as well the 11FI data only had Fulham at a 22% chance of a clean sheet, I wasn't really expecting to see Leno in goal. Areola, I get. It's not a bad fixture for West Ham, to be honest, but I'm really, really shocked that Leno was the chosen goalkeeper for this week, considering the fixture, considering the fact that Fulham have only managed to keep 3 clean sheets as well this season. It's not great reading. The 11FI data also doesn't back it. I was tempted to maybe see a Sarr in there, a Raya, an Edison potentially, but yeah, I wasn't really too kind of impressed with that pick, to be honest, from the AI. However, I do feel the defence, he's probably got it more bang on. Of course, we saw in the 11FI data that Arsenal really, really fancy for a clean sheet. And I think the 11FI model is also building into that as well with, of course, Gabriel and Timber double up with, of course, Chelsea at home on that one. We also saw that Gvardiol and Manchester City were also fancied for a clean sheet again on the 11FI data. Gvardiol as well, like I said, I'm pretty much recommending him. I think a lot of people are probably going to be picking him up this week. So I think the back line, it definitely does improve. Of course, though, there is a little bit of kind of, I would say, a lack of Forest players. Obviously, they've got pretty decent clean sheet data. And, of course, Wolves defenders as well, with them having Southampton. I thought Nuri might have potentially snuck his way into this list, but it does look like it's going for the more premium route in terms of those defenders. I get Gvardiol, I get Gabriel. I'm just not 100% on Leno or, of course, the Arsenal double up, with it being Chelsea at home for Arsenal. In terms of the other defenders, it's just gone for 2 kind of cheap playing potential defenders, Johnson and Hill, kind of just to put all the money within the squad itself. Let's move on then. Let's head a little bit further into the midfield. We're going to start off first with Martin Odegaard. We saw on the predicted points in the last section, he is one of those players that is fancied to do pretty well. I will say, though, that this team does seem very, very stacked for a fixture that I think potentially could go either way, considering Arsenal's recent shaky form. So I don't know whether or not I would potentially go with that triple up. Of course, Arsenal are going to be putting out a rotated side in the Champions League. You imagine people like Odegaard, Trossard probably aren't going to feature too heavily. However, again, I am a little bit surprised to see Martin Odegaard, Gabriel and Timber all within this AI's team. Semenyo, I get, because the Fantasy Football Hub model absolutely loves and adores him and thinks he's God's gift to earth. But for me personally, I think he's been missing a lot of big chances. He's just not that guy to go and get double-digit hauls. I would much rather prefer Cliver. I think he's playing with a kind of class and confidence at the moment. And the big thing for me is, of course, penalties, and he will be the penalty taker of that side. So I think I would prefer to go for Cliver if this was my team. Just kind of making a comment on the AI's one there. Bruno, I get. We saw again, he's really kind of come up over the past few days. I've been monitoring it, the predicted points. He is a player that I'm looking to target with my own team as well. He's kind of the heartbeat of Manchester United. If they're going to do anything, you can pretty much put your bet or your money on that Bruno Fernandes is going to have some sort of goal involvement. Of course, Leicester, one of the worst sides for XG conceded this year, so that one completely makes sense from the AI's point of view with that one. Palmer, we saw with the Fantasy Football Hub, it's got him second in terms of those predicted points, but sometimes I think the confidence of a player massively impacts their performance, and Cole Palmer definitely seems like one of those players where it's just not quite clicking for him at the moment. I don't think the penalty miss would have helped his opportunities, and it does seem quite a strange team from the AI, considering the fact that they've got double Arsenal defence, then have selected Cole Palmer as well. It just doesn't quite feel right to me, to be honest. I don't know what it is, but yeah, I don't like Cole Palmer as a pick this week. He could potentially go and surprise us. He is one of those players that, of course, can lift the lid on any single game. He is a penalty taker, so you never know what could happen in that regard. But for me, it does feel a little bit strange that the AI has selected Gabriel Timber and, of course, then Palmer for this fixture. Moving into the front line, I think we've got two pretty consensus picks and one differential who we did flag in the predicted points section of this video. So Haaland is going to be top, and I think when the betting data comes out is probably going to be the leading player for anytime goal scoring odds this week. So I think that one makes sense, and I think he'll have pretty high effective ownership. To be honest, I think a lot of people will, of course, look to captain him or, of course, the other striker within the side that I said was kind of a little bit of a consensus pick. It is going to be Chris Wood with that great fixture at Ipswich home. Of course, Ipswich away, sorry. We know what they've done this season. 21 goal involvement for, of course, Chris Wood as well. And I feel if you are in a pretty decent place in terms of rank, the safe and probably boring pick is going to be Chris Wood in terms of captaincy. He'll probably be around 85% effective ownership. It keeps you covered away from the people that are not free hitting and saving it. But I think if you're free hitting this week, you probably want to maybe take that gamble and go for somebody like Erling Haaland. Finishing up then, it is Raul. We know Tottenham have been very, very bad recently. They're not a great side defensively. They leak a lot of opportunities. The big concern for me with this one is I don't know if Raul is the right pick. I just don't. You've always got Muniz kind of lingering away, kind of just on the cusp of things, potentially going to get some minutes at some point. And I don't know if Raul is that guy, but he does take penalties when he starts. Again, though, for me, it is kind of a little bit more of a minutes concern rather than anything. I think there's probably more interesting picks to have gone with. I think Strand Larson potentially could have been more of an interesting pick, somebody like Beto. However, the Fantasy Football Hub and, of course, 11FI were also suggesting that this Fulham fixture, there could be goals for them in this. And you do feel if they are going to get anything out of it and Raul is leading the line, he could be one of those players that does go off big this game week. That was the AI free hit draft for blank game week 29. Let me know what you think of it down in the comments section below. Of course, if you've got any questions about your team, get them in. But thank you very much for watching today, ladies and gentlemen, and good luck in blank game week 29.